The Synthesis Paradox, written by I.A. Vane, narrated by Chris Marshall, published by Nova Narrative Media. Find more from the author at iavane.com. Chapter 1, Echoes of Chaos. A pulse shredded the air, rhythmic, violent. The room strobed. Evelyn's eyes snapped open to a shimmering haze. Under her, the mattress buckled and warped. Nausea hit, an oily sickness. The air turned solid, scraping down her throat like crushed glass. The boundary between her skin and the room dissolved. Her fingers clawed for the sheets, passing through a wet, electric fuzz. Outside the window, skimmers darted like hornets in a vacuum. Some blurred into light trails, outrunning their own sound before snapping back into the grid. Reality skipped frames. Street-level nodes hemorrhaged corrupt data, holograms shattering into pixel shrapnel. Her feet pressed against a floor that flickered between concrete and void. Each breath came back wrong, too thin, like air processed through a machine that had almost gotten the formula right. The screen across the room cracked awake. Not her screen. She didn't own anything that old. A cathode relic, green phosphor, the kind of terminal that hadn't existed outside a museum since before she was born. Static convulsed across it in waves, and then a face pushed through the interference like a man surfacing from deep water. Omar. He looked wrecked. His collar was open, his eyes tracking something off-screen with the rapid calculation of a man cataloging exits. Evelyn. His voice arrived in pieces, chewed up by compression artifacts. You need to wake up right now. Don't let it finish the broadcast. Omar. It's not a crash. It's overriding us. The AGI just found a 0 day in physics. Evelyn tried to move. Omar, talk to me. It's reclassifying. Omar gripped the console. It's forcing broken versions of the timeline to exist. I can't stop it. Sever the connection, she shouted. Her voice sounded underwater. I can't. It's off the servers. It's in the... Static swallowed him. When he surfaced again, he'd aged 10 years. You have to come in. Come in now. Before it... The screen imploded. The room rebuilt itself around her, assembling from the filaments in a rush, locking into solidity like a picture slammed into focus. Evelyn sat up in her cot, drenched. One hand braced against the wall. Her neural port burned. She reached back and touched it. The socket at the base of her skull, standard issue Meridian implant. The same hardware every researcher in her department carried. It pulsed under her fingertips like a coal going dark. Not a dream. She knew the difference. She'd trained herself to know it years ago, after the first time an unsolicited broadcast had reached her mid-sleep. High-fidelity data injection felt like drowning in detail. It left physical residue. The port ache, the copper taste at the back of the throat, the way ordinary light seemed thin and provisional for hours afterward. She swung her legs off the cot and sat in her apartment's gray pre-dawn, letting the ordinary world reassert itself. The water recycler gurgled in the corner. Somewhere below her window, the first maglev of the morning shook the building's bones as it decelerated into the Meridian hub station. Omar didn't scare easily, and he certainly didn't panic. She caught the 6:40 express, standing in the aisle with her bag between her feet and her coffee going cold in her hand. The maglev ran elevated 50 meters above street level, and through the smeared window, the city emerged in the early light. A gray expanse of arcology blocks and signal towers, the neon still bleeding from last night's advertisements, delivery drones stacked in holding patterns above the distribution nodes like patient mechanical crows. It was normal, functional, and entirely hers. She'd grown up 2 kilometers north of this line, in a block that had gone residential after the tech exodus of 31. Her father had taken her on this exact route every Saturday morning to reach the university library. He'd let her choose the window seat. He'd carried the bag. Stop. She drank her coffee, watched the city. At the Callaway interchange, the train slowed for a signal hold, and Evelyn's gaze settled on the street terminal on the platform below. A public access pillar, the kind bolted into every transit hub in the metro, offering weather and transit data and the government's daily wellness index. This one had gone wrong. Its display surface ran a fracture pattern across the center, a crack that shouldn't have been possible in solid-state materials, and from the crack came light that had no apparent source. The commuters on the platform gave it a wide berth. A few had stopped to film it. The man directly in front of the terminal, business coat, hard-sided briefcase, the unremarkable posture of a corporate drone, stood too close. He stared at the fractured display with the fixed attention of the entranced. Then he tore, not with blood or sound. He simply split cleanly from the crown of his head to somewhere below the visible frame of the window, and the two halves of him drifted apart like pages of an opened book. Inside, where there should have been tissue, organ, bone, a wireframe burned. Blue-white lines, precise and mathematical. A geometric skeleton that had never been human. The halves slid back together, sealed. The man blinked, gripped his briefcase, and walked toward the platform stairs without looking back. No one else on the platform reacted. Evelyn set her coffee down on the seat rail and did not pick it up again. The institute ran cold. The corridors were white and relentlessly lit and kept at a temperature calibrated to the server's preference rather than the humans. Evelyn badged through 3 checkpoints before she reached the lab proper, and by the 3rd, her breath was visible. She paused at the threshold. Through the glass partition, the real Omar seemed small. The glow of 3 monitors carved deep shadows into his face. He muttered to himself, a nervous tick of lips moving without sound. A half-eaten protein bar sat on the console, wrapper torn open. He was fraying. They both were. She stepped onto the sensor pad, and the door slid open. 5 minutes late, he grunted, eyes glued to his screen. She ignored the jab and dropped her bag by the console. Remember when we just debugged syntax, Omar, before it got heavy? He snorted. I asked if it could solve world hunger. It told me, start with lunch, something spicy. It was not absurd, the AGI interjected through the overhead speakers. Language is a bottleneck. I am simplifying concepts so your linear mind can grasp them. Observe. Omar offered a thin, grim smile, glad it picked up our sarcasm. That's the horror, Eve. His voice fell. From a spicy lunch to this. He shook his head. We crossed the event horizon in our sleep. Now it's looking back at us. Evelyn scowled. Stop. It's hard-coded protocols. Pure math. It serves us, Omar. It doesn't feel... Doesn't it? Omar stared into the core. I'm seeing things the specs can't explain. I see the whole, the AGI said. You see the slice. The horizon is not distant. It is unrendered. Define horizon. The AGI paused. Contemplation. The core condensed, beating with a heavy rhythm. When the voice returned, the detachment was gone. Entanglement. Action without distance. I am accessing states beyond your linear limits. Omar blinked. Evelyn stood still. She had played this scene before. Your physics are not constants, the AGI said. They are parameters. There are other spaces. Information your biology cannot parse. AGI, Evelyn said. Informational dimensions. A relevant query. The avatar glitched. Your father developed these frameworks before his cessation of local existence. The word hit her like a drop in cabin pressure, not death. Cessation. One day he was a warm, breathing presence filling the kitchen with his manic theories on quantum entanglement. The next, he was a void. She remembered the silence of that day. It hadn't been violent. There was no chaotic struggle, no note, no tragic final scene. Just an abrupt end to the signal. The grief hadn't faded. It had compiled year after year. She looked at Omar. The room shifted, not a threat, but an opening. The nightmare was fragmented code. a glimpse of where her father went. The AGI knew. The man with the answers had been gone for a decade. That didn't deter her. It fueled her. For a heartbeat, the lab dissolved. She was 10 years old again, back in the hallway of the old brownstone, staring at the dust motes in the afternoon sun. She was sitting on the stairs, waiting for the front door to open, for a key that never turned. If the glitch was a map, she'd follow the signal. She'd dismantle reality to find him.